Rave culture is defined as a group of individuals who gather in a nightclub, warehouse or private property, typically featured a performance of a DJ playing a series of electronic dance music. Music which is typically played is a selection of house, acid house, techno and jungle music. Rave culture originated in American cities such as New York and Chicago in the 1970s. Creators at the heart of this new club culture were gay black Americans who were economically and socially disadvantaged from their society. As they could not express themselves for who they really were, they instead had to find other methods of creating and expressing identity. Through their creation and combination of musical notes became the early birth of rave culture. Expressive cultural music and combinations provided the club culture that we know now today. Rave culture became a space where individuals enjoyed music and freedom from an ever-political society. New subcultures were created with a relaxed view on how participants dressed or danced. Rave culture combines a variety of different social groups together in one space at one time. The transgressive nature of rave culture emerged when illegal drugs such as ecstasy were widely sold and bought. Ecstasy creates a sense of escapism from society which is brought about despair and isolation, and replaced it with hedonism and a sense of community and belonging. The most common drug used was ecstasy. However, other drugs were used such as cocaine, ketamine, LSD, acid and speed. House music reflected positive power of the community within a society of racism and sexual segregation. Raves created a new world away from the troubles of society. The drug ecstasy became massively used within rave culture in the UK. The drug produced an environment of pure enjoyment and a space of non-violence. Violence was rare as ravers embraced the artificial sense of empathy caused by recreational use of ecstasy. Rave came to England at a time of political turmoil. Margaret Thatcher became the Prime Minister of England from 1979 to 1990. During her time in power, she privatised hundreds of businesses, affecting northern areas of England such as Manchester hugely. After the miners' strikes in 1984, hundreds of working class workers were forced out and experienced huge police brutality during the protests. Many of these individuals were forced to resent the law. These working class individuals started to look for other ways to escape the bleak future they faced. When rave travelled to England, the empty warehouses which had been used for factories of work were turned into areas of illegal rave events, hosting thousands of people listening to acid house and techno music, with a combination of illegal street drugs such as ecstasy to create a powerful sense of love and community. Rave culture goes hand in hand with transgressive acts, as it is a mechanism which is used to fight against political injustice, using illegal drugs to escape from normal platforms of life and instead protest against a society revolving on alienation. In the summer of 1985, the first key rave event happened in Stonehenge. Typically, a peaceful free festival occurred yearly in June, was held to promote freedom and peace within a hippie and traveller communities. Many consumed illegal drugs such as cannabis and hallucinogenics such as shrooms to feel connected to the universe and their spiritualities. However, in the summer of 1985, a convoy of hippies and New Age travellers were en route to take part in the Stone Age Free Festival. As they approached a bean field on the outskirts of Stonehenge, a convoy of 600 travellers were intercepted by 1,400 armed police. The hippies were met with extreme unprovoked violence. Children were separated from their parents, animals were killed and 400 were arrested. 16 travellers were hospitalised and many others were treated for injury. Vehicles were taken, many containing families' entire life's possessions. This is best known as the Bust of the Beanfield and was a hugely aggressive act against New Age travellers. Many of the police acted unlawfully and held prejudice against New Age travellers. Despite the brutality that was experienced at the Battle of Beanfield, peace was reflected within the rave community, as well as an ever-strong ideology against Thatcher's government and policing techniques. The Spall Tribe were a hugely transgressive set of DJs, creating house and techno music. Spall Tribe leaders were responsible for the organisation of illegal raves across the UK from the mid-1980s to the 1990s. They began to grow in popularity and held views of revolution from the oppressive society in which the rave culture reflected. The most well-known illegal rave they created was Castle Morton Free Rave in 1992, producing one of the longest and most expensive court cases in UK history. The court case ended in 1994, costing a total of £4 million. Castle Morton was an illegal free rave which spread over almost 7 days. It hosted on Castle Morton Free Ground and hosted 20,000 hippies, travellers and ravers across the UK. It became so large that the police could not shut it down. Illegal drugs were sold in vast quantities and media reporters created more panic surrounding the drug culture. Music started at noon and did not end until early hours of the morning. However, at the end of Castle Morton, many were arrested, therefore unfortunately ending in the Criminal Justice Act, which was passed 2 years later in 1994. The Criminal Justice Act was passed banning groups of more than 20 individuals gathering and playing music. It was passed with huge protest movements from those who rejected the act. A protest was carried out in London, many of whom who attended protested by taking part in raves across London, showing their transgressive nature against the law. However, as the protests carried out, some of the protesters began to push and knock down the gates at Downing Street. The protesters were met by armed police on horses. In today's society, we can still see transgressive rave culture, however with the limitations of having to buy tickets for rave events. However, the ideology of embracing unity and the consumption of illegal drugs still reflects people's want to escape society's stresses, as well as creating a sense of enjoyment within a society of political uncertainty. Transgressive behaviour within Bristol rave culture has built identities within communities and allowed subcultures to express identity within society.